Hi guys, Brian from Boas here. It's been a really long wait, but my female Pacalpa Peruvian red-tailed boa is having her babies at last. Today is day 121 after the post-ovulation shed. So she's been due for about the last 2 weeks, and it's not unusual for true red-tails to go a week or two after that 105-day rule after the post-ovulation shed. So I'm not too concerned about that, but it's been kind of anxiety provoking over the last couple weeks, just constantly checking in on her, seeing what's going on, and the 2 weeks had seemed to go on forever. So now I'm excited to go take a look and see what we have. Well, it looks like my female Peruvian has finally had her litter. It's been quite a long wait, and it looks like there's a dead baby, which is a little disconcerting. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. I don't see any other babies, but of course there's this big hiding place. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to get her out. She's probably gonna be a little bit aggressive. So I'll go ahead and I'll use a towel to just protect my hand. And then I'm gonna transfer her to a lukewarm water bath just to get her cleaned up, get the smell of the babies off of her. See, yeah, this might not work. I don't want to get bitten here. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. But importantly, oh, looks like we got some babies. That is a beautiful sight. Wow, look at those. Let me get her out of here. So I've got her soaking in a few inches of lukewarm water in a Sterilite 56 quart tub. I'll just let her soak in here for maybe half hour to an hour or so, get the smell of the babies off of her and calm her down a bit. And in the meantime, I'm going to remove the babies from the cage. So here's a little guy that unfortunately didn't make it. Just take a quick look at this guy. Not sure what happened. Beautiful looking animal. You can see his belly's kind of swollen up. It's always heartbreaking to see. Wow, look at that tail, man. It's always heartbreaking, but it unfortunately happens, and it's not unusual to have 1 or 2 stillborns in a litter of healthy babies. But the good thing is, looks like we do have some live babies over here. Looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So not a huge litter, but Peruvians are, even a few Peruvians is a great thing, and these are just a sight for sore eyes for a boa breeder. Just takes a long time to get to these babies and a lot of risk. I tried breeding the same female 2 years ago, and I just got nothing but slugs. These look to be some beautiful little babies. Beautiful patterns. Hopefully all these guys are alive. I was really starting to worry on this female because she was about 2 weeks or so past her due date. The 105 days after the post-ovulation shed is a pretty rough estimate, and boas will often go longer, especially the true red tails. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move these guys into a tub, get them cleaned up a bit. I went ahead and got the babies out. You can see them there. Real beautiful litter of Pacalpa Peruvian boas. The mother is a Jim Peters bloodline animal, and the father is a Rio Bravo bloodline animal that was born here back in 2015, so I'm excited about a second generation birth. See lots of nice colors and patterns on these animals, and they'll look even more exquisite once they have their first shed in about a week and a half or so. So I'm going to put them in this tub and just let them kind of chill for a couple hours. Then I'm going to change the paper towels. You can see a lot of umbilical cords and the goo, the amniotic sac debris that's remaining. But we want to get that out after a few hours so it doesn't start to decompose and start to smell. Here's a close-up of the babies. You can see how big and vigorous they are. The Peruvian boas are one of the largest boas at birth, and they can be almost 2 feet in length, although these guys are probably closer to about 20 inches, but they're still very thick and vigorous looking babies. I just love the look of their cute little heads. Got out the guy that unfortunately didn't make it, just had a closer look at him. And as I said before, it's not unusual to have 1 or 2 babies from a litter that are stillborn and they're not alive. And I often wonder about what causes this, and in some cases the babies are born and they're deformed and they're clearly not developed, so they wouldn't have been able to survive. But with this guy, you can see he's fully developed. I just measured him. He was 21 inches long. Looks like, there's nothing wrong with his development. There was just unfortunately some kind of trauma that may have occurred during birth. Perhaps he was just in the wrong position inside of the uterus of the mother and ended up getting injured during the birthing process, and he didn't make it, which is, it's very tragic. Just happy that his 6 siblings managed to survive the trauma of birth. So I'll take this guy out into the garden in a little bit and I'll give him a proper burial just so he can go back to nature. I gave the female a good soak to get her nice and clean, and now I'm putting her back in the clean cage, and I cleaned it out thoroughly just to get rid of any of the residual smell of the babies, just so that she can calm down and get back to normal. And I'll go ahead and I'll give her a medium rat tomorrow. She's going to be pretty famished because it's been about a month and a half since her last meal, and she's been through a lot. It's been a few hours, so I went ahead and I changed the paper towels. You can see some of them still have their umbilical cords attached. I usually just let the umbilical cords fall off. If you're rough with them, sometimes you can get some blood, but these guys aren't really bleeding, so the umbilical cords will just fall off after a day or two. And I'm just going to keep them in this 56 quart Sterilite tub for about a week to 10 days or so, right up until they're about to shed. And I'll put it onto a heat mat set to maintain a hot spot of about 90 degrees on one side. I'm also going to go ahead and throw some crumpled paper towels in there just to give them a few more hiding places. And I'm going to just spray them down with some lukewarm water just to keep them nice and moist. You can see some of them have kind of swollen bellies, and sometimes they're born like this, and typically the swelling goes down after a few days. But overall, just a really beautiful litter of these beautiful Peruvian boas. Just love the patterns on these guys and the shapes of the saddles, as well as you can see how beautiful the tail is. And these guys are going to look just amazing once they have their first shed. I'm going to end the video by showing you the father of the litter. This is a 5-year-old Pacalpa Peruvian male. This guy is actually a holdback. He was born here back in 2015. And the reason I held him back, first of all, he has these peak saddles, which are really cool looking, and you don't see the peak saddles so often in Peruvian boas. They're more common in red tails from Suriname or Guyana. So that was one thing that stood out. It was also one of the largest babies from the litter, and right now he's probably about 5.5 or 6 feet. But relatively large for a 5-year-old male that's been slow grown. And he's got this long red tail. You can also see how beautiful his belly is, all the speckles. I love the belly markings in these true red tail boas, and this guy is definitely no exception. This litter of Peruvian red tails is my last litter of 2020, so it's definitely a great way to end the season. And I'm really super thrilled to have this litter plus my litter of Suriname red tails that was born about a week ago. So some real beautiful baby red tails to get established, and I'm looking forward to getting these guys going. I'm actually quite relieved that my gravid females have all now given birth, and I can relax a little bit. These last few weeks just waiting on these 2 red-tailed boa females to give birth, I've been a little anxious, and it's great to have the babies on the ground. So now I can actually start thinking about the 2021 breeding season, which my pairings are just around the corner. So as you probably know by now, if you're a breeder of Boas, there's never any time off. The Boa breeding season is basically 24/7, 365 days a year. So you don't really get a rest, but it's always very exciting. And I've got lots of great pairings planned for next year. And I'll be sure to share them, my planned pairings, with you in an upcoming episode. So I hope you enjoyed this and it was somewhat helpful. As always, please feel free to shoot me any questions or comments you might have. Thanks for watching and enjoy your Boas.